I think easily these are the three most talked about micro subs on the market right now. So let's compare them. So before we start shooting these things, there's a couple things I just want to get ahead of really quick. Obviously there's other guns in this category that could be used in comparison. Right now I'm just trying to compare the three most talked about on my page and that I'm seeing on Instagram right now. The other thing I want to get ahead of real quick too is there's going to be people that stop by that say get a full-size gun, you know, get a 45, get a 40 cal, which I understand where they're coming from, but understand that especially for me, if I'm carrying one of these micro subs, it's because I can't be carrying a big gun. And I'm always going to pick having a gun over not having a gun, no matter what that gun is. If it's a 2-shot, if it's black powder, if I have to have that gun instead of no gun, I always pick the gun. Alright, now that we got that out of the way, I wanted to break down how I'm going to try to do today's video. Basically what I did yesterday was I put up on Instagram what are the things you look for in a new gun when you go to purchase it. And I'm going to take those answers from Instagram, I'm going to put them up right now, and I'm going to go through each one with these three guns as quickly as I can. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign a 1, 2, 3 scoring to each pistol, and then we're going to do it like golf. Lowest score at the end of the day wins. And this is all my opinion, so you have to take it with a grain of salt. Keep in mind my hands are bigger, I'm a bigger guy, so it's not always going to relate to what you may think, but I'm just going to try to show it in the best way I can so you can make a decision if you are trying to pick between these three pistols. One thing I did want to mention, I think in these categories, some of them carry a lot more weight than the other categories, so you should probably care like about capacity and reliability. You should obviously care about those more than, you know, sights and grip feel. So even though in this comparison I'm just giving numbers to them, I do think that some of those should matter more to you than some of the others. Little disclaimer too, all these guns are stock besides the Glock 43 has stippling done and the Sig P365 has an aftermarket trigger. I have shot a 365 with a stock trigger, so I'm going to do the best job I can of trying to relate that to it, but just keep in mind it is an aftermarket trigger. Alright, so I'm going to be running all the guns today with their pinky mag extensions. I'm not going to be using plus count base pads because I think for me especially these guns role is having a smaller grip, so we're going to run them all with the pinky extension but no extended mags. Alright, so first category, grip or hand feel. I loaded up each gun with 3 rounds, so I'm just going to pick them up and kind of describe what I'm feeling to you guys as I'm shooting them. I messed with these last night, just dry firing at home, and I will say that the 43 and the Hellcat, they have bigger grips than the 365, so for me, they just feel my hands a little bit better, so I know that right away just picking them up, I would give the advantage to the Hellcat 1, Glock 43 2, and then the Sig 3. But we're going to shoot them here, and I'll see if those opinions line up with actually shooting them and their grips. So we're going to do the 365 first. 365 has a really slender grip, so it feels like it's kind of small in my hand. Let's shoot this thing. So that held good in my hand. I think my ear pro is a little loose. Now the Hellcat. This has more texturing on it. It has a little bit of finger grooves, undercut, so I feel like I can just get planted on this one better. But let's see. Same thing. I do feel like the Hellcat in Recoil rubs my thumb because of that textured spot, but I do feel like I can get really planted on it. Now the 43's grip, because of the capacity, the less capacity, is thinner, but it's also wider, if that makes sense. So you can get, I feel like I can get planted on it pretty well, it's just thinner in my hand. Honestly, for these guns, as snappy as they are, if you get your grip right, none of them are too small, I feel like, even for my hand size. But I would still go Hellcat 43 365. I think that the 365 is just a little bit thinner than I'd like compared to the other two. Alright, so now trigger. I think trigger is kind of one of those things that's a little tricky because everyone has a preference on how they want their trigger pull to be, whether it's the wall, the reset, you know, they want a crisp break, a little bit of a soft break. You know, so I'm just gonna try to give you my best opinion as I can from just a straight on looking at the trigger standpoint. Like I said, I messed with them last night, so I'm gonna kind of give you that brief synopsis before I shoot them, and then just let you guys kind of try to, I'm gonna try to shoot from like right here so you guys can see it as best I can, and we'll just go from there. Now, like I said, this is the aftermarket trigger. This is, I believe this is the trigger that comes in their XL. I could be wrong on that, it just looks like it. But I have shot with the 365. The SIGs have a very soft, like quick take up. There's not a lot of like creep to it, to the wall. They have pretty decent triggers. So we'll kind of, I'm gonna compare it to the stock 365, but I'm shooting this one just so you can see it. This is gonna be the only test where I can't really compare stock to stock, because like I said, it is aftermarket. But I'll try to give you guys the best view of me working these, even though my hand covers it up pretty good. So see that like reset, if you can see in there, is that wall, like it's really spongy to that wall, but then as soon as you hit the wall, it stops. So there's not a lot of like creep. It's just very, there's like no resistance, and then it's on the wall. I normally don't pin, but I'm pinning it so you guys can see. There's not a lot of push to that reset. I like my reset to kind of get pushed back. But I mean, it is a crisp break, and like I said, this is aftermarket, but their triggers are like that. The take up is just, there's not a lot of resistance there, and then you're just right on the wall, and then that reset is a little bit of a creep, but then it's audible and textile. Reset, you can feel it. Good trigger, but I like the other ones better. I'll tell you about that. So now, Hellcat. This trigger, I talked about in my Hellcat video. The take up and the reset are longer than I'd like, so you get that resistance before you get to the wall, and then once you reset it, you got to kind of let it out, but I'll try to show you guys that the best I can. So it's a little bit sloshier, but it's more felt. Wall, pinning it here. Watch this creep out. Felt, audible, but it's longer than I'd like. I think I like about all three of these guns is you do have the felt and audible reset. I think that's good for new shooters when you're trying to learn what reset is, whether you shoot from reset or you're trying to reset and recoil. It's nice to be able to feel it in your hand and also hear it when you're learning. Glock 43. This trigger is chunky on its take up. I don't know if that's gonna come through in the video, but it's just, it's like creep, 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 like kind of like, but then once you get to the wall, it's definitely there. Reset. Could be a little quicker, but again, I run aftermarket, so I'm a little picky. Felt, audible. So I would give the Hellcat probably the 2, the 43 the 1, and the Sig the 3, just because I think that the Hellcat has that longer go back and forth, where the Glock is just a little bit quicker to those things, and that's again personal preference, but I would give Glock the advantage there and Sig the 3. This is the gun I normally carry, so I'm not a huge micro sub guy, but I like making the videos and shooting them. Okay, so texturing. This one's actually pretty easy for me to do. I give Sig the 2 on this. Their texturing is pretty aggressive, but they also don't put it here, they don't put it here. So the texturing's good, I just wish they did it in a little bit more spots. The Glock, like I said, this one's stippled aftermarket, but you guys know what Glocks look like. They don't really have that much texturing, if any. So I would give Glock the 3 here, that one's pretty simple. Hellcat, I wish their texturing was a little bit more aggressive like the Sig, but I think they do it in better places, plus it comes with the undercut. So just out of the box, I would give this the 1, Glock the 2, or I'm sorry, Glock the 3, Sig the 2. Okay, capacity. This is another really easy one. Glock gets the 3, 6 rounds plus 1. Sig gets the 2, 10 plus 1. Hellcat gets the 1, 11 plus 1. Hellcat has the best capacity in the same magazine sets. You're obviously getting a little bit wider grip with the Sig and the Hellcat than you are with the Glock because of that capacity, but I think that's a good thing, having a little bit more grip. See, I want to keep shooting this thing, I can't. I'm out of bullets. Sights. I'm gonna roll the B-roll here while I talk about this. This is another one that I think is like trigger. It's really subjective to what you look for. Right away, I'm giving Glock the 3 because Glock sights are not my favorite. They're plastic, they're busy, they're just not great. And then between the Hellcat and the Sig, I prefer the sight picture of the Sig. I like to have a red front and a black rear. Sig has the green front, kind of the black rear. So I like that sight picture better, but I would say that I pick up the Hellcat's sight better because it has a brighter front, and then, I don't know, something with that U just kind of makes it fall into your eyes. I don't know, personal preference. But I guess if I had to pick between those two, I would probably give Hellcat the 1 because my eyes just are drawn to that front sight a lot more than the Sig. So I would go Hellcat 1, Sig 2, and then Glock 3, of course. All right, I got all the mags loaded up back there at 7 yards. I'm gonna try to give you, I think it's 4 or 5 shots on each gun into the head. Okay, Springfield. Glock. Sig. You guys got mad at my Springfield video because I was like at 3 yards, 7 yards. If I miss at 3, I'm missing at 7. And most concealed stuff happens between 3 and 7, so it's good to practice all of them. So price is going to be a big thing too, and these guns are all going to fall within, depending on where you find them, probably $100 of each other. I saw the Hellcat listed for $499. I think I bought my 43 for maybe the low 4s, and then the Sig, I think I saw a hit on Palmetto for $499. So like I said, they're all going to be probably within 100, and I don't really think, at least for me and probably most people, that $100 really isn't going to sway you between one or the other. So in this comparison, I think that they all get a 1 or they all get a 3 because I don't think there's enough discrepancy in price that's going to make you pick one over the other just based on price. This is what my buddy gave me his 365 in. I feel like Wyatt Earp. That holster is sticky. Garbage. Here's a perfect example of why a good holster matters. Look at the purchase area on this leather thing. You can't even get your hand on it. The gun needs to be like up here. Pay attention to that. You gotta be able to get to it. Just so you guys know, I don't normally shoot with sunglasses on, but I do it when I film because if I don't look here, I'll look here and I do this. So you just see my eyes darting between the screen and the lens. And it's a little weird. So if I put these on, you can't see me do it. I'll try to learn how to not do that so I don't have to wear these all the time, but that is why I wear them. Okay, reliability. Obviously the Gen 1 SIGs had issues at the beginning. I have had 2 failure to feeds with my Hellcat. When I switched from the flat mag cap on the low capacity one to the pinky extension, I had 2. So I don't know if it was something maybe I did or the follower, I'm not sure, but I did have 2 failure to feeds. I've run lots of rounds through my 43. I've never had an issue. So just from the brief time I've had with these weapons, I would have to give the 43 the 1, the Hellcat the 2, and the Sig the 3, but I'm really only giving the Sig the 3 because I don't have as much time behind it and because of the issues they had at the beginning. I know that those issues are fixed now, so that's totally up to you and how you feel about those ones. I would only carry right now the 43 because I trust it. I don't trust the other 2, and the Hellcat is mine and I would like to carry it someday, but because of those failure to feeds and because I only have 300 rounds through it, it's just not a gun I'd trust yet. So safeties was one that people said, and you know, all these guns have safeties, they just don't have the SIG's the only one with an actual like safety. So that's another one that's kind of relative. So if you're scoring based off just having a safety, which is kind of an unfair scoring, I guess, because they all do have safeties. Obviously this would get the 1, and then it would be 2, 3, whichever way you'd want to throw it on those. So I'll just give this a 1 and both of those 2s because it doesn't have safeties. I do not believe you can get a safety on the Hellcat or the 43. I could be wrong there, but I don't think you can. An actual safety. They all have safety. Another one that I thought was a really good one that I don't think a lot of people think about when they go to actually buy it is upgrades and aftermarket support. So this one's really easy to do. The Glock is always going to have the most aftermarket support. Holsters, magazines, extensions, sights, just because Glock is the biggest. So Glock easily is the 1. I would put the Sig obviously at the 2. The Sig's been around a long time. Sig has a lot of aftermarket support. And then the Hellcat's going to be the 3 because the Hellcat just came out. I haven't even seen holsters for it yet. My buddy Roger at QVO is going to have one I think next week. But I don't have even like a holster company, a bigger company that's working for it. Obviously it came with that crossbreed holster, but I'm saying like an actual Kydex holster. They don't even have those yet. So Glock 1, Sig 2, Hellcat 3. There's 2 on that list that I'm just going to knock out really quick just from my opinion. Caliber and accuracy. So I run 9mm on almost everything. I think if you study ballistics and you understand having capacity and things like that, 9mm is just the best way to go. I also think that most of the rounds I shoot are target rounds, full metal jackets, so it's a lot easier for me to run my gun. You know, I shoot maybe 15, 20,000 rounds a year, so it's easier and cheaper for me to run 9mm. And its accuracy, I don't think it's fair to really like judge a pistol on accuracy. I think if you're doing like long guns with like really tight groups, maybe you could talk about barrels and things like that, but handgun accuracy is shooter accuracy for the most part. So the accuracy you're getting out of your gun is how good of a shooter you are, especially at close distance, especially with a pistol. It's all your sight picture, trigger press, things like that. So I am not going to attest to any of their accuracy because their accuracy is how I shoot them and how well or inefficiently I shoot them. So I'm not going to touch, I'm not going to judge their accuracy because if I'm accurate, they're accurate. If I'm inaccurate, they're inaccurate. I mean, I don't think there's not that much debate to that, especially short barrel, close distance. Okay, not that you ever would, but we're at 50 yards now. I'm gonna shoot the Hellcat, shoot this ADAP, see if we can hit it from 50. This could be embarrassing. Okay, so that was 3 for 5 with the Hellcat. The Glock 43 now. My target fell down. Damn, it's 50 yards. Okay, I'm back. Heart rate's up a little bit. I think I was 1 for 2. I think I got 3 shots left. Glock 43. So that was 2 for 3, so 3 for 5 with that. And now Sig 365, 50 yards. That was 4 for 5. So that is 10 out of 15, right? So like 66%. So that distance shooting, that's a perfect example of why I say accuracy is subjective. The guns can do it. I just can't do it as frequently as I should be able to. You know, 10 out of 15 for 3-inch barrels and that sight radius, like 50 yards, that's pretty good. Especially if you could do 15 for 15. Okay, so serrations, another pretty easy one. Glock doesn't come with front serrations. The Sig and the Hellcat do. So they all have back serrations. The Sig and the Hellcat have front serrations. I would give the advantage to the Sig. I like that their front serrations are a little bit more aggressive, I would say, than the Hellcat. I think the way that they do them is a little bit better. So Sig 1, Hellcat 2, Glock 3. Front serrations are kind of another thing where if you rack from the front or you're a press checker, they're great to have. If you're a power stroke guy, you don't really press check, or you do your press checks from back here, you don't really care about front serrations, but I like to have them. Okay, full disclosure, I kept score as I was recording this. My writing is terrible, but basically what you got here is the Springfield got a 15 and the other two got 19. I want to say my like bias isn't coming out because honestly between the three I'm taking the Glock all day, so it did lose. But I also think that not having as much time behind the Sig probably plays into this a little bit. And I wouldn't carry the Hellcat right now. You know, I'd carry the 43, I'd trust the 43. I wouldn't carry the Hellcat. But I just think that if Glock made a gun that fit in this category, you could argue the 43X or you could argue the 26, but they're not. They're not really in that category because you have a longer grip or you have a fatter gun. But I think if they did better sights and added a 10 or an 11 plus one, it'd be Glock, easy. But I just think Glock's just a little bit behind. So in this comparison, the Springfield wins, but the Glock is my gun that I would carry. So that's really, like I said, these reviews are really subjective. I think people that have the Sig love the Sig. If you have the Glock, you love the Glock. And I think eventually if you have the Hellcat, you'll love the Hellcat. But if you're here and you're looking to pick one, I'm not going to tell you which one to pick because it's going to be what you decide and the personal preferences for you. I will say if you're getting this gun to be able to carry a gun where you normally wouldn't carry a gun, just pick one and run with it, learn it, shoot it, and carry it. Because, you know, like I got a comment of, you know, I carry the ankle holster sometimes. Someone was like, just leave that thing at home, it'll get you killed. No. Whatever gun, like I said at the beginning, whatever gun you gotta take to be able to carry that gun as much as you can, buy it, learn it, take it. I hope you guys like this review. Please subscribe. See you next week.